There we go. Okay, let's do this again. Share screen and resume. Okay, everybody see? We're all good? Okay, you're all muted, so I'm assuming you are. Okay, so here we are. Um, we are going to be discussing the stations of the Aron. My name is Batsheva Schwartzberg, and I am a certified Israeli tour guide. So before we begin, let me just explain to you a little bit. I can't see anyone. You want to just wave to me to show me that you're here. I want to just make sure that I'm seeing you all. Oh, okay, you're all here. Good. Because I'm like thinking that I'm talking to myself. Okay, let's go back, share, resume. Okay. So before we actually begin with the stations of the Aron, let me just give a little bit of a prep talk. First of all, we might shut down after 40 minutes because um, I didn't fully subscribe yet. So I might just have to start it again and then we'll just rejoin. I'll send you another link on the chat. We're going to go through as much as we can. I did not realize what a huge subject this is. This is a huge subject. And we might have to skip the middle. So I may just, tell you the beginning and go to the end, and then the middle we'll do a different time because there is so much to talk about, like so much. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we actually talk about the stations of the Aron in Israel. Starting with this timeline over here. So if you notice over here, we're starting with the Canaanite period, which is 2000 BCE. And then we're going all the way here to the Israeli time period, which is now. In between, the timing that we're actually talking about is around over here, which is about the 10th century BCE. And that's mostly what the time period that we're going to be talking about today. That's called the Iron Age. And then you're going to see how there are different layers of history that happened throughout that we're going to be seeing archaeology, which is, physical remains in Israel from, and that is going to come up as well. Another thing I want to talk about before we actually begin is just to give you a general picture of the globe because it's important to understand what context we're talking about. So we're going to zoom out a little bit and we're going to talk a little bit about the Philistines over here. So Israel is right over here. And then the Philistines were coming for we call this the Aegean islands kind of world where they were sea people. They were coming to Israel around 1200. It was called the Bronze Age collapse. And that's when they moved over to Israel and settled here. Around 1200, they stayed here in Israel till around like 600, something like that. And then they sort of assimilated with the Babylonians and the Persians that took over Israel, Canaan at that time. So we're going to talk a lot about the Philistines because they were a huge part of this period. Okay. Now, again, in terms of a macro picture, we have the Levant, which were the world powers at the time. We have this area is really what we're going to be focusing on. The Philistines came from a little bit further to the left. This over here was the Minor Asia, which was a little bit further up. And Greece, that's the areas that we are talking about in terms of the globe. Okay? Now, in terms of the actual Aron, the Ark of the Covenant, this was the journey of the Aron. It started out in Shiloh. Then Eli, who was the leader at the time, said, hey, let's take it. The Plishtim, the Philistines are bothering us. We need to have more spiritual support. Therefore, let's bring the Aron with us to war. He brought it with him to war. The first stop was Ebenezer. Afek was where the Philistines, the Plishtim, were residing. Then it didn't work out too well for them over there. the Philistines started getting they started dying as a result of it. So then it went to Ashdod, then to Gat. We're going to go through each one, then to Ekron, Beit Shemesh, Kiryat Yearim. It took a little stop in a place we nowadays call Moza, and then to Jerusalem, where King David decided to build the Holy Temple. Okay, and this is a beautiful picture of the Aron that we can see today. So we're going to start with the first place. And like I said, I gave you a little bit of an overview. Before I give you an overview, let me just tell you the story of what happened in the book of the prophets, specifically in Samuel 1 and Samuel 2, where it actually tells us the whole story. So I'm going to go back to this picture again. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit of a synopsis of, what we're talking about and what the actual story was. So, okay, like I said, it started out in Shiloh. We had the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and then it was taken to Even Ezer, which is the first place that the Aron, the ark, was taken. Eli did not in a million years believe that the Philistines would take the Aron, but that's exactly what happened. It was taken. They lost in their battle. There were 34,000 Israelites that died as a result of this battle. And two of Eli's children, Hophni and Pinchas are their names, they died as well. And then when Eli heard that the Aron, the Ark of the Covenant, was taken, he fell back, he broke his neck, and he died as well. So that all happened in Even Ezer. Even Ezer today is a place called Isbet Sarta, which we're going to talk about. We've seen some archaeology really proving that the Philistines were actually there, and I'm going to show you that. Then we go to, and then there's Afek. Afek seems to have been a very important strategic location for the Philistines. It was on the Via Maris, we call it. Via Maris means the way of the sea. And today it is Route 6. It is a very important road connecting Mesopotamia all the way down to Egypt. So the Afek was on there, as well as Ashdod is on the Via Maris, and even Gat is on actually Gaza is more on that Via Maris road. So it's a very important road, a very strategic location, and we've seen some archaeology from the Philistines in Afek, although there's been a lot covered over from later timings, which I showed you before, the timeline of different people that have inhabited this land. Okay, so that was in Even Ezer, which was Isbet Sarta. Then we go to Ashdod, where the god of Dagon was residing, and the basically the idol of Dagon had fallen to the Aron, and they got all scared. And again, they had a plague, and a lot of people died. And then the Philistines said, "That's it. We can't have the Aron with us, the Ark," and they wanted to get rid of it. So they got rid of the Aron again, and they sent it to a place called Gat. Okay, Gat is a place called I think it's Tel Mikne, if I'm not mistaken, and they brought it to Gat, and Gat also people were inflicted with a plague, and they didn't like that the Aron wasn't doing them any good. So this whole journey of the Aron from Even Ezer all the way to Gat took about 7 months. And then it went to Ekron, okay? And in Ekron, we have also, it didn't do them very good. People died as a result. So then they sent it to Beit Shemesh, but right, it's over here. Beit Shemesh is right there. And Beit Shemesh was it came to somebody's field, which was in a valley. A person by the name of Joshua was there. He was cutting wheat at the time, which is around now, and then ended up bringing the ark to his house. People were dancing and they were singing, but of course, there was people weren't treating it with the utmost respect, even in terms of the Israelites, because they were finally returning it to the Israelites, and therefore the Jews said that they didn't feel worthy enough to be carrying it for so long because it was causing a lot of death. So they sent it to a place called Kiryat Yearim. Kiryat Yearim is today Telstone, or um, also known as, it's on the border of Abu Ghosh, which is an Arab town, and Neve Ilan, which is a Jewish town. So in Kiryat Yearim, it finally stayed for a very long time by a man by the name of Avi Nadav, and he put his son in charge. His name was Elazar, and we're going to see soon how this place, the reason why they are very clear that it is Kiryat Yearim, is because the Arabs had retained that name called Tel El Zar. Okay, so that is very similar to the name Elazar. And then we have it, and then from it stayed here for 20 years, and then it went to Jerusalem after. And then first it went to the city of David, where it was in a tent until David built the temple. Okay, so this is a little bit of a clearer map where it's showing the Isbet Sarta, which we're going to talk about right now. And this is this was the ancient city of Evan Ha'ezer. Okay. And then we see Afek over here, right over here, and that's where the Philistines resided, and that's where their first battle was. So it says in the verse, "Vayhi devar Shmuel l'chol Yisrael," when Shmuel mentioned this to all of Israel, "Vayetze Yisrael across Plishtim la'malchama, vayachnu ala Evan Ha'ezer, u'Plishtim chanu ba'Afek." So we spoke about where Afek was in Evan Ha'ezer. Va'aron Elokim nokach u'shnei b'nei Eli mesu Chafni u'Pinchas. There were two of Eli's children that died, Chafni and Pinchas. They fell in this battle of Evan Ezer. Vayan Hamavaser, and the person that was reporting all this said, Vayomer Nas Yisrael Lefnei Plishtim. All of Israel ran away from the Plishtim. Vagam Agefa Gedola Haisabahem, and there was also a big plague. Vagam Shnei Banecha Mesu, and also all their children and two of their children died, Chafni and Pinchas, two of Eli's children. Va'aron Halokim Nolkacha, and not only that, but the Ark of the Covenant of God was taken. Vayehi, and it was Kehaskiros Aron Halokim, when they mentioned Aron Halokim, Vayipol, Eli fell, Me'al Hakise, from his chair, Achoronis, he fell backward, Be'ad Yad Hashar, next to the gate, Vatishaver Mafrakto, and he broke his neck, Vayamos, he died, Kizakein Ha'ish, he was very old, V'chavid, Evehu Shafat Yisrael Arbaim Shana. So he died and he was old. And not only that, but when he heard about the taking of the Aron, then he just couldn't handle the news and he fell back, and that was really what caused his death. This is Evan Ha'ezer today. Okay, this is, we call it Isbet Sarta. Again, we said it's on the Via Maris, which is the main road from connecting Mesopotamia to Egypt on Route 6. It is a suburb of Rosh Ha'ayin and 20 kilometers from Tel Aviv. We have a lot of Iron Age. Remember, I showed you that timeline of the Iron Age, which is the 10th century. We have a lot of finds from that period, and this is one of them. It's a wall. And look how this wall has, it's divided into partitions, showing that this was a fortified wall. And it wasn't just, something that was standing up there. This was actually a fortification that was preventing enemies from coming in. So this was a very clear archaeology showing that this is from the 10th century, from that time period. And over here, this was a very exciting find. It's probably the oldest inscription found, one of the oldest, not the oldest, one of the oldest inscriptions found in Israel. And it is a Hebrew letters, but it's not in modern Hebrew. It's more like in I think it's called, it's not cuneiform. It was even before cuneiform, but an old ancient, I think it was like Mesopotamian Hebrew, and it was not actually something very important. I'm sorry, we're going to end in 10 minutes and then we're going to rejoin. Okay. So just you'll bear with us. Um, so this inscription uh, is not only is it didn't have anything very important on it. The only idea was that it was in Hebrew and that it was from this time period because we know what language people were using at the time. And it is basically a practice. Somebody was practicing alphabet. And that's really what the shard is. This was the paper that they used at the time. They used rocks or clay or, different kinds of paper than we use today. And if you want to see it, it would be in the Israel Museum. It's there today from this mountain of Isbet Sarta. Another important find that was found here in Isbet Sarta are these silos. They were, if you notice, they are very deep. And it's showing that this wasn't just, nobody in their house is going to be collecting silos and grains. This is something that only a very important city, a very fortified city is going to have. So you have these silos in this area. Another very interesting find, and this you'll also see in the city of David, is the four-room house. Okay, so notice how you have one over here, two, which was another room, three, and then four. Okay, we call this the four-room house, and this is very iconic for this time period, for the Iron Age in the 10th century. We have the kitchen is like somewhere over here. They have a place for animals. That's, I think, number 4. But this was very typical for this time period. You'll also see the exact same style house in a place called Arad, as well as in the city of David. You'll see the 4-room house, which was very typical for this time period. So very clearly, the Israelites were here, and we have archaeology proving that they were here. Okay, so that is the first stop of the ark. And again, this was the place that it was taken. Now we're going to go to the next one, which was Migdal Tzedek, Migdal Afek, or Majdal Yaba. So remember we said that this is the place that the Philistines came to. They were camping here. And again, this is along the Via Maris. So it's a very prime location. But right now we don't have, it was built over a number of times. So we don't see, this is not from the First Temple period, although we've seen First Temple period remains going on underneath, all the way underneath. But there was crusaders that built on top of it. This castle is called the Mirabel Castle from the 13th century. It's a crusader castle. And this is what remains. Underneath this castle is actually First Temple period remains, like pottery and things that show that the Israelites were here as well. Then over here, okay, this is what you see in terms of the Crusader Castle. And by the way, if you want to visit this today, it's very easy to access, and it's a national park. It's beautiful. I did not go, but I saw it online, and it looks like a beautiful place to visit. It's going to be definitely part of my plans to visit it. This is a Byzantine inscription. So remember we said that the Byzantines, they came after the Romans, which is about it's sort of the Roman period sort of, flowed into the Byzantine period, which is about like the 4th, 5th century. So this clearly shows that Byzantines were here. And again, we know that people usually build on top of something that's important. So this was obviously an important place before they actually built here. And right, and that's Migdal Tzedek and Migdal Afik. So now we go to the next place, which is Ashdod. And Ashdod was very important because Ashdod is on the sea, and Ashdod is a very prime location for people that are sea people. So, of course, the Philistines, remember we said in the beginning that they came all the way from the Aegean area, and they are very much all about the sea. So Plishtim lakhu es Aron Elokim vayivi'ehu me'even ha'ezer, from Evan Ha'ezer to Ashdod. Okay, vayikhu Plishtim es Aron Elokim vayaviu, so base Dagon. They came to the house of Dagon, which was their idol that they served at the time. Eitzel Dagon. Vayashkimu Ashdodim mimacharas. And the Ashdodim woke up. Vihine Dagon nofel lefanav. And Dagon fell before the Aron, lefnei Aron Hashem, before the Aron of God. Vayikhu es Dagon. They took Dagon. Vayashivu osolim komo. And then they went and they returned it. Vayashkimu baboker. They woke up in the morning. Vihine Dagon nofel alav arza. And again it fell lefnei Aron Hashem, before the Ark of the Covenant. Verosh Dagon ushte kapot yadav. His head and two of his palms of his hands, krusos, were cut off. El hamiftan. Rak Dagon nishjar alav. So only its head was left. Al kain lo yidruchuka. Okay, so now they're going to have some EBGB things about it, and therefore they never entered Dagon's temple at Ashdod until this day. Vatich b'yad Hashem ala Ashdodim, and then Hashem, God, became strong against the Ashdodim, and vayishimim vayachosam batchorim, and they got another plague as Ashdod v'eskuleha vayiru anshi Ashdod, and then the people of Ashdod, they saw Kechen, they saw what was going on. For Amrulo Yeshiv Aron Elokei Yisrael Imanu, it's because we have the Ark of the Covenant with us. Ki koshza yado aleinu va'al Dagon Elokinu. So they're saying that this is all happening because the Aron, which is so powerful, it has such a powerful force, and that's why this is all happening. So we have over here, remember we spoke about a fake, but now we are in Ashdod. Do you see Ashdod over here? That's near the sea, and that is going to be the place where their idol of Dagon is, and that's where they got smote with this plague of mice, and they decided that this is not working for them, and therefore they're going to have to get rid of it and move it to another place. Okay, and this is the remnants of Ashdod today. This is actually, they say that these walls are from the Iron Age, from the 10th century. So these are really, really old walls over there up in the front. You're getting a little bit of a panoramic view of what it looked like in Ashdod. And it's really a beautiful place to be. Ashdod is mentioned also in the New Testament by Philip, who spoke about Ashdod as Azotus, okay? And he mentioned that there were Jews living in Ashdod at the time. Another very important find in Ashdod are these murex shells. They found these murex shells. Now, what's interesting about these murex shells is that over here we have it's called a, I'll tell you the exact name. Ugarit, that's what it is. It's called the Ugarit texts. And these are texts from Syria that mention these murex shells from this time period. It was actually more like the 14th century BCE, a little bit before, but we know that the Philistines were very, very into murex shells dyeing. They had this purple dye that they had purple, they would dye wool into a purple color. In less than a minute, it's going to stop, and then we're going to have to rejoin. So I'm going to just warn you, and I'm going to finish this. But they have evidence of the Philistines being here in Ashdod, which was very much a Philistine city. We are going to stop this for a minute, and we're going to rejoin. I'm going to resend the link just so that everybody has it, and we're going to rejoin again. I'm sorry about this, but until I get this down pat, we're going to work like this. Okay, so I'm going to resend it now. And